Hey, I'm Thomas Cox, and this is Restoring Trust, the podcast on restoring faith in institutions and saving Western civilization one elected official at a time. And my guest today is Ty Stober, who is running for Clark County, Washington Auditor. And Ty has agreed to answer our set of fixed questions that I sent out to all 12 candidates who are running for statewide off or for countywide office. And if there's time at the end, we might talk about other things as well, but I'm going to try to stick to my discipline and
Okay.
ask the questions as I promised. Ty, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Thomas. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Yeah. So, Ty, first question we ask all the guests is, what, in your view, is the purpose of government?
Yeah. So the reason why we organize as societies in general is to accomplish things that are impossible for us to do on our own. Um, those public goods, so the paving the street, making sure there's good public safety, providing clean drinking water, and even more importantly, service. Those basic functions that make sure that we can operate together as a society. Um, and within that context is the need to also support those structures. And that's what the auditor is about, is making sure that these support systems are in place to be able to execute all those other things.
Right. That's teeing up my next question. Thank you. What is the specific purpose of the office you're running for, the auditor for Clark County?
Yeah, it is. It's actually a pretty big office. So first, it has the financial functions, which is highly tied to that public trust that's so important. So it's making sure that that the bills of the county are paid, that employees are paid, that those monies are being spent correctly, and then it's auditing that, auditing those results to make sure that there is adherence to what was promised to residents and voters around a given program. So that's number one. Number two, it holds the records and deeds of trust. So it's also the underpinning of property ownership in our county. Um, and that office, as a side thing, also issues marriage licenses. The third thing, it contracts with the State Department of Licensing to run all the uh, vehicular licensing in the county. And then finally, and most importantly, most passionately, is the elections. It runs the elections of the county and makes sure that there is consistency, accuracy, and trust in that system.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, you may have to repeat some of that.
Yeah.
So, the auditor oversees, ensures that other aspects of county government deliver the results they're supposed to deliver.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, okay,
So the auditor, this is a operational role, not a policy role. So I don't get to tell the county council how they're going to spend the money. They get to do that once they've set a budget and set the priorities. The office of the auditor makes sure that those monies are being spent, or if monies are coming in from the state or the federal government, that there is adherence to the requirements of those grant propose or those grants that are received.
okay. So it sounds like there's an enormous amount of work here.
Yes.
The county commission or the council will say, we're going to spend $1 million on homeless services to accomplish X, but you guys are going to go out there and measure, did X even happen?
Yeah.
And did the $1 million get spent and did it get spent out of the right accounts, for instance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
then if federal dollars come in and they are earmarked for you know, drug treatment, then to make sure that the right dollars went to the right programs and weren't misdirected or improperly spent,
Exactly. Exactly.
which I'm guessing, given how many strings the federal government likes to attach to dollars, that there's probably a non-trivial reporting burden there.
Yeah. And it's done uh, it's done in coordination with the state auditor's office. So we're trying to make sure that when that we're doing the first round auditing to make sure that if second round auditing happens from the state auditor or happens from the federal government, that all the ducks are in a row.
Okay, so the second level of audits after you guys would do yours would be the state might come in afterwards on anything in particular that catches their eye, or maybe a random sample, or however it is the
Exactly.
state does.
Exactly.
Got it. I once heard someone say that one of the auditor's jobs is to keep other department heads out of jail,
It's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
which is not an exaggeration because when
No.
dollars are misspent, the people who misspend them can take on personal liability for that.
Yeah. But it, but
Um,
it, and it goes another level in that if they're misspent, if they're not, do they lead up to that's that thing of undermining that trust
right,
that's so important to build.
right. Okay. I'm sure that we could talk an entire hour on all the many,
Exactly.
many things that the department does. So I'm going to gloss over some of that and
Yeah.
go on to my next question related. When the office of the auditor is being done well, what would the public see and hear?
If it's being done well,
Yeah.
nothing. You know, this
Okay.
is if it's being done well, then things are happening in a way that the public doesn't need to spend their time even thinking about this office. You know,
Right.
the, there is when the state auditor comes in, there's no findings on the county that we should have caught in the first place. When they go to buy or sell a home, it just those documents naturally get recorded, and there's secure trust in the institution of voting that your ballot was counted and that you can trust that process.
Right. So another way of saying it might be, well, okay, there's two ways to take that. So if you're doing everything you're supposed to do and everyone else is doing what they're supposed to do, then things will run smoothly and there will be no uh, what am I looking for? Scandals,
Yeah,
uproars,
yeah,
perhaps.
and
And
you're very right there because this is only one office, and the office owns the financial accounting software for the county,
right,
but the auditor and the auditor staff have to interact with every other department in the county
right.
and make sure that they're buying in and using that system the way that it's intended to be used.
And there's quite a few departments.
They're, yeah, independent departments and
Right,
meaning with an independently elected executive and those that fall under the county manager.
right. So I understand it can be a fun challenge for auditor staff to go to the sheriff's office, let's say, and tell
Yeah,
them you need to do something differently. But
yeah,
they report to a person who was elected directly by the voters. And like, who are you to tell me my job?
yeah,
And that can be, there might be some, well, we'll get into how one builds the relationships necessary to get people to comply with your reasonable requests
yeah.
when they don't report to you. Um, and I want to add a little more on this. When your office is being done well, what would the public see and hear, assuming somebody else in county government isn't doing it maybe the right way? They spent the money the wrong way. They misspent they whatever.
Yeah.
Then what people see and hear what?
Yeah, and that gets to the essence of why this is an independently elected office.
Right,
So there is, Greg Kimsey is not, doesn't have to answer to the county council, the county manager. he has the political cover to be able to speak truth, and his
Right.
staff to be able to publish an audit that says, no, this is not going correctly.
And so the public may see and hear audit findings that
Yeah.
say, yeah, the office of the clerk or sheriff or treasurer or prosecuting attorney or county council or whoever did
Or the Public Works Department.
public
Um,
works, sure,
yeah,
yeah, that any of them may have misstepped in some way, and your office has issued a suggestion, correction,
yeah,
you know, please go fix that thing. This and here's
yeah,
how to fix it.
yeah,
And then maybe there's a follow-up saying, thank you for fixing it, or hey, you still haven't, or something.
exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Got it. So you're kind of checking everybody else's work. And in some sense, um, I think the auditor role or the audit function is the first line of defense of public faith in the rest of the government, or at your level.
Yeah, very much so.
Got it. I'm going to move on to my fourth question. What do you see as the most important issues facing this office?
So, um, so let's start with that Greg Kimsey has built an office that does have an extreme amount of trust. So this starts, the next auditor will start with a solid foundation. Um, and it becomes where to focus time in order to improve. So, an area for me is how do we increase voter participation? Um, Clark County has long trailed the state of Washington in voter turnout, and that really gets pronounced in odd year elections when when city council members, when school board members are elected, our turnout becomes really low. So, for instance, the last time I was on the ballot in 2023, we only had 27% voter turnout for that election
Countywide.
countywide.
What do you recall what it was for the state or other counties?
State was 30, I can't remember, it's 32 or 34 that year. It was a low water mark for both, but
Wow.
so, but the 32, 34, 34 is what Clark County averages in an odd year election.
Oh,
So we're, we just continually trail. And a lot of that, in my opinion, has to do with the fact that our media market is Portland. And the joke I have is that if you went and polled a lot of people in Clark County, you'd find that they'd think that their governor was Tina Kotek rather than Bob Ferguson, because
right.
that's the media. And so I think there's a challenge that I want to take on of
Mm.
how to break through that,
Wow.
how to um, increase awareness of our residents, of our citizens, the registered voters, that when we have our elections going on, um, because all the media is saying primary elections happened 2 weeks ago in May, uh,
But for us, it's August.
but for us
But
it's
but
August.
if you're tuned into the news, you're like, oh, primary in the past. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
now you're not looking. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a key priority for me. Um, I, I think I got so passionate about that one point I forgot the overall context
Well,
of
yeah,
it.
the question really is, what are the major issues facing the office? And voter turnout sounds like it's a very big one for you.
Yeah, yeah. The financial reporting. There's 40 years of winning national recognition for their financial reporting. There's um, 6 awards in the past 12 years for auditing performance. So the financial portion is very solid. I think there's opportunity where the opportunity becomes is how do we better communicate uh, that financial information to the public and present it in a way that's easier for them to digest. Um,
Got it.
and but this also kind of comes back to this communication role. Um,
Yes. Yeah, it sounds like both of the top issues you've mentioned, voter participation, financial reporting, and specifically communicating to the voters. Uh, yeah, you've got it. I'm not sure anyone thinks, oh, the auditor, that's a communication job, and yet that's how you're lining it out.
yeah, it
Understood.
truly is.
Okay. My next question is, are there areas where you perceive or are concerned about institutional decay, either in the office of the auditor, or in the systems surrounding it? And please interpret that as broadly as you like.
Yeah. So the core functions um, are strong, uh, but this again comes back to we have residents and voters in Clark County who are getting bombarded by a lot of information about everything. And they're trying to raise their kids, put food on the table, make sure that their job is solid, all these things. Um, and how do you, um, and, and in government, we want participation. So how do we meet our population where they're um, able to receive the information from us, and that's the big challenge. So this question of institutional decay, you know, currently sitting on the Vancouver City Council, and I've been there for 10 years. We are getting better at engaging with the public, and we have a long ways to go. Right?
Got it.
It's not that we don't want, we do want, uh, but we are still, government is slower at figuring out these new communication pathways, these new
Yeah,
neural networks in our society, and how can we plug into those in a meaningful way. And so I bring that as well to the auditors. How do we, there are good solid bones here. How do we let the public know in order to, so that they can therefore have that confidence in the system?
right. Yeah, and I have so many things I want to say in response to that, which would blow out our time limit because I still got some questions for you. If we have time later, I might loop back to this.
Okay.
Um, so what I'm hearing you say on the question of institutional decay concerns that for you, that meeting people where they are, making information available to them in ways that are easy for them to consume, uh, so that they have the opportunity to be engaged.
Yes.
And this is something that you've seen firsthand from being on the Vancouver City Council for 10 years,
Yes.
that it's substantially the same there as it will expect it to be with the auditor's office. Uh, Next question. Uh, to the extent you are seeing institutional decay or risks of that, what role do you see this office playing in halting and reversing decay at whatever level? We may have already sort of hinted at it, but I
Yeah,
want to hear it
yeah.
fresh.
I just keep coming back to the, okay, but it's great to repeat the message, right? It is about, um, uh, you I want to advocate to, the only reason I have to go to the county council is they control the budget, including the budget of the auditor's office. So, um, for these areas of that I feel need to be addressed around communication, I am going to have to go and convince the county council that that's a valid thing. that it's a worthwhile thing for the county to invest in. Um, and I don't see these as large programs, as large expenditures, but we're in
Right.
a budget constraint within the county, and every single penny counts. So I'll be needing to make sure to properly communicate that need.
Got it. Are there any specific plans you have for your term in office, an agenda, specific outcomes you're hoping to pursue?
Yeah, so we've been hitting the voting one over and over, so I won't go there. I
You can
want
say it
to
again.
so I mean, I, what my dream would be able to hire a communications officer, um, somebody who is making sure that we have good social media presence, that um, we are working on earned media from the Portland media, the Portland TV stations, radio stations, that can help us with that communication of the information that the office of the auditor is producing. Number
Right.
one. Number two, back to um, that auditing function. Um, in in the private sector, I ran a program that where I was working on behalf of the utilities, and the work I did every single year, I had to submit it to an outside evaluator to say, am I doing is this program doing what it's supposed to be doing? And I learned through that the design of the program itself helps with how well it can at the end be evaluated and communicated.
Right. If
And,
you set it up properly, it's evaluatable, it's communicatable that the thing you're doing when you're either partway through or at the end, it's like been set up to be communicated to the public, to whoever.
right. And so I would love to be able to develop a competency within the auditor's office to um, to help other departments in their program design. So
Okay.
not telling them how to design it, not telling them what to do because that would undermine the integrity of the process, but giving them
Right.
suggestions about how to design things so that there is it's easier to audit and communicate the findings in the end.
So you might ask, what are some, you might be saying, here's some best practices for program design to make them more auditable, to make them easier to communicate to the public, to report on, say, not just we spent this money, but we achieved this outcome.
Yeah, that is exactly it.
Got it. Um, and you mentioned some of the priorities that you see as important. How did you choose those priorities?
Uh, the voting is out of my own passion.
Okay.
I have been watching voting trends in Clark County for um, longer than I've been in elected office.
Hmm. How
Um,
long is that?
so I've been on council for 11 years. This is my 11th year.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so my interest in what voter turnout has gone further than that, and that comes from it being so important to me to vote, being so important for me to make sure my voice is heard. It translates into really a strong desire to make sure other people feel included and that their voices are heard. The uh, the part about program design, uh, I bring that from the work I did uh, in the private sector, and um, things I have tried um, to lead the city towards. But I'm not the executive at the city. I'm one of seven. So I can't dictate. And so this gives me the opportunity to, again, not dictate anybody, but at least be able to create a resource Um, and then the third thing would be um, the county is invested in a very capable um, software program for finance and
Mm.
administration. And there is capacity and capability in that. And being
Yeah,
able to um, market that and really proactively. There are a number of jurisdictions that do use it, but there's a lot more that could use it, and just trying to create those efficiencies throughout the county. Um,
gotcha. So it sounds like when it comes to things like program design and using the software, that you see a role in the auditor's office in providing education, say, on best practices around program design, or here are great ways to use the software better, and so forth.
yeah.
Um, okay, we've reached the end of my questions, and we're at the 26-minute mark. So technically,
Okay.
you're off the hook. You can hang up. But I have a follow-up. Um, have you contemplated or have you seen this done well? Because I asked this of a different auditor in a different state once, publishing some kind of scorecard where it's publicly readable. Maybe that you give them a first draft and say, here's your score if you don't straighten up. And then like a month later, it's like they never straightened up. So you get to report the score. Uh, to let the department see that, see themselves in a mirror, if you will, of an assessment of here's your best practices, or here's what percentage of your programs adhere to best practices, uh, and using a publicly visible scorecard of some sort to assess current state and to help incentivize the improvement. I know that could come across as punitive to some people, but at the same time, it is also a form of transparency, and it's not completely beyond the pale, I think, of the auditor's office. Any thoughts on that?
So a couple thoughts. One is transparency is important. Um, Being able to communicate clearly is important. Um, Third, I am interested in finding out all those things. I'm interested in going out and searching for those with my staff.
Yeah,
Excuse me. If I'm elected, uh,
right.
with the staff, going out and searching for those things. I'm going to guess the staff already knows a lot of those things
Sure.
because of the awards that they have received for their audit performance. The caveat, though, is these the audits that the county auditor does are not standard. The state auditor comes in and does a standard audit every single year
Okay.
or every other year. But for Clark County, the state auditor is in every single year, right?
Right.
And so it's a very standard process. The county auditor is going and looking at a program that oftentimes is time limited. So there's less repetition. So any tool would have to be flexible enough
Oh,
to
yeah.
deal with that variability.
Wow. Okay. I suspect I'd have to go to class here to really understand the implications of that. And we are out of time. This has been very helpful to me to understand your thinking. And I imagine our listeners and viewers will appreciate you being so forthcoming about your thoughts on the role of the auditor. Is there a website that people should go to for more information on you and your candidacy?
Votety.com. That's VOTETY.com.
Vote Ty.com for Ty Stober, candidate for county auditor in Clark County, Washington here in 2026. Ty, thank you very much for coming on Restoring Trust, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.
Thank you, Thomas. I hope you have a tremendous day.
You too.
Bye
Bye.
now.